Whoa. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Friday, November 19th, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Lucky Trader Lounge reconvening for our end of week recap stream, which I think we might unveil a new name for this stream. Danny, I don't even know if you know about this yet. We were talking about some new names yesterday for our daily news recaps, which we've launched on the site each and every day now. There's a daily news recap to kind of go along with either this show or the typical daily news videos that hit the site. We might have a new name starting next week, so something for folks to keep in mind. But yeah, we're here to talk about NFTs, the week of NFTs. A lot of stuff has happened. A lot of stuff has been pushed back or delayed, and ConstitutionDAO and Doodles and bull markets, and so we have a lot to potentially talk about. How are you guys doing on this fine fall morning?
Good. Ready to chat. I mean, we chatted last night, but there's always more to chat about in NFTs, especially in a market like this.
Danny, how are you doing?
I'm great, and I'm looking forward to hearing about that new name. That was quite a cliffhanger there.
I know. We'll leave it a cliffhanger because we want folks to have to come back, right?
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Why don't we get into it, though? We're going to be joined shortly. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter show, by the way. We're cutting off at 12 p.m. Eastern time for today's sake. But so we're going to get into this, and then we're going to get through it pretty quickly. But we'll get right into kind of the stream of thoughts from the last week. And the first being, for those who did not join last night, ConstitutionDAO failing. And also, I shouldn't say failing. That seems a little harsh. But did not win the U.S. Constitution bid at the Sotheby's auction last night. And though, a little bit of like a rug in terms of the communication post-auction, which was the really sad part. Have you guys seen the updates here? It seems like the reason they didn't continue to bid was as a result of needing to, they still wanted to maintain like the protection of the document and whatever they put it behind, right? All the bulletproof glass and stuff. The stuff that Nick Cage was able to easily, undo in the National Treasure movies. They need to be able to do that and be a little bit more secure. So that's apparently the reason they didn't keep moving forward. That's pretty sad, isn't it?
But don't you think they could have raised that money afterwards had they actually secured the bid? Because there would have been so much news and so much hype.
Yeah. Do they have like X amount of time to come up with that money? Do you know?
Well, you mean the winning party? Because ConstitutionDAO did not win.
Oh, I mean ConstitutionDAO. Like, do you think they could have like wrote in their Discord, "Hey, we need 5 million more," and got it, or would that be a little like slimy? I don't know.
I think they could have. It may have been seen as a negative from the community potentially, but I don't think so. I think we were talking about last night, like I expect that if they would have won, it could have been like a huge catalyst for, I think it still is. Like people are still like, holy shit, they raised $45 million in a week on kind of like meme.
Yeah, and this didn't even happen. People didn't even know this was going to be a thing a week ago. That's like the craziest part.
Yeah.
Is how quickly it all came about.
On Monday when we were talking about it, they were at like 3 million. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It blew up. It got a little out of hand in terms of the amount of money raised for this thing. They kept upping the goal. I saw some FUD about that, about like, them keeping, it was 20 million to start, right? And then it was like 35 million, and they ended up getting to 45 million. And of course, you ended up needing even more than they raised, or they felt they needed more than they raised to have done this proper justice. For in terms of the protection of the document, the upkeep of the document, and making so that folks could view it, access it, all those things. So interesting point of the week in terms of Web3. See, Alex is hopping in, so we're going to bring him in here. I think we should move though. Good morning, Alex. We should move to talk about some NFTs though. This is tangentially related, of course, as a Web3 thing, but this week was quite packed with, as every week is, quite packed with NFT news. We had a bunch of delays. We had a bull market, or like the starts of a potential bull market. So there are lots of things to talk about. I want to start though with some stuff that happened yesterday. Did you guys see the Wolf game thing that came out yesterday?
Yeah, I did it. Did you get any?
I did not. I was in the process of doing a whole host of other things for Lucky Trader and did not get around to minting in time. Though it didn't go too quickly. For those who aren't aware, I'm going to throw it up on the screen here. Wolf game dropped kind of like stealthily yesterday. Beanie, I think, was in large part one of the impetus for this gaining so much steam, or as much steam as it did, in that manner of time. And it's, your typical kind of play to earn game, or I shouldn't say it's typical play to earn game. Actually, it's a play to earn game, or meant to be a play to earn game, right? But it's very atypical in terms of the mechanics. Lou, do you want to take a stab at trying to breaking down these mechanics for folks?
Yeah. So basically what happened is there's 10,000 units, I guess.
NFTs.
And you could go to mint. So there's a couple ways you could mint and immediately stake the item, or just mint. And the reason they did that was to save gas. So you just did one transaction for both. So I thought that was kind of cool. And you either got a sheep or a wolf, and 90% of them are sheep, and then the other are wolf. And so you could stake them and you get back the coin. I don't know if you can even call it a coin, but wool is the currency, let's say.
Yeah, the utility token.
And so if you stake a sheep, you can't unstake it for 2 days. But with a wolf, you can unstake it whenever. And then the way that you do it is like sheep gain X amount of wool per minute, hour, whatever. And then it's a higher rate than the wolves earn for staking. However, when you go to unstake your sheep, 20% gets taxed back to the wolves. So if you have a wolf, you're earning less, but you're gaining when everyone else is unstaking your sheep. So it's like an interesting way of it breaking down. But I don't understand the coin side. Like, is the coin going to be traded in any way? Is it going to have any sort of dollar value to it? That's the part that I wasn't sure about. And I don't think they are having it. So that was my somewhat concern with it.
Yeah. So we should say, if they are promising any sort of economic utility here, that's a huge red flag, because that's your regulatory, like, this could be a security thing.
I don't think they
are. Right. They can't. Like, if they are, that should be a red flag, and maybe we should. I don't have the notes here in front of me about whether or not they've said that. Hopefully they have not.
So then what it is now to mint new sheep or wolf, you still have the chance of getting it. You pay with 20,000 of the wool currency. Yep. So long term, I think they cap it at 40,000 total units, but those first 10,000 are considered like generation 0. So now they're on generation 1. Do you have the number up there? I want to say there's like 500 more sheep that have been added since.
10,526 assets. Yeah. And we should note, you see this rank 1 right now. This was a really weird metadata unfurl for this project. So we're still kind of actively working on getting these appropriately ranked at present time. But you can at least take a look, right, and go through the attributes and stuff right now on luckytrader.com.
So I don't know if it's like the way that we do rarities, but the way that the wolves are ranked, they have an alpha rating is what it says. And I think the higher alpha score gets a higher piece of the pie later. So these ones, is this an 8? Yeah. Yep. So I think the 8s get the highest rate, and then it's 8 down to 5.
Okay. So, I want to pause though. Danny, Alex, could either of you follow any of that? And this is not a knock on you, Lou. This is not a knock. We've talked about like complexity. Actually, a lot of projects have tried to do new, unique, complex things, right? As a way to, which I think is great, as a way to like differentiate themselves from other projects, right? Not just a profile picture project, not just your typical battle game, right? However, we've also mentioned, like in the case of Nyan Heroes and their mint, right? Like that complexity can deter folks from entering because they have no clue what the hell they're doing. So Danny, Alex, Lou's description there, it's not a knock on Lou, but like, did you follow? And because of that complexity, would that deter you from hopping in, or are you like sort of intrigued and now you want to learn more? Which way?
It's a great question. Great question. And here's the thing. It's like Lou's description made me more curious because I know and I'm aware that the next big thing is going to be something that when you first hear about it, you're going to say, that doesn't make any sense. Right? I have that in my mind. So because of that, I'm like, Bored Ape didn't make any sense when it launched, and a handful of other projects to me, but I understood them later. And so that leads me to believe that, okay, Lou said some stuff that I understood, some stuff that I didn't, and I want to learn more.
Yeah. Alex, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same way. I mean, like, I feel that's the reason that we're all kind of in crypto, is that we find it super interesting, but it's super complicated and you always have something to learn about. So that's very similar answer to Danny. I would say it's like just more interesting to me, and it would pull me in a lot more than deter me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I love people that are pushing on the innovation. This is something that talked about market stagnation because of the myriad of projects that were the exact same thing, right? And so, Danny, you mentioned Bored Apes didn't make sense to you at first. Now it makes a little bit, maybe makes a little bit of sense, right? Maybe not. To many folks, it doesn't make any sense at all. But as you started to like be okay with that, then we saw more and more projects come out in the same mold, and then you understood those projects as well, right? Exactly. So maybe we'll see this happen with the games. Exactly, you mentioned the great Danny. I don't know if you were sort of pseudo referencing Chris Dixon's piece about like all the new stuff starts out looking like a toy, right? That type of thing. Yeah. Totally. So I wanted to share that for folks. That was like a kind of like a stealth drop yesterday. I don't think it's really super widely known. There was pretty strong action in terms of price, right, Lou? I think did wolves like overnight and sheep overnight?
Yeah, at night. And so the part that really sort of becomes a game in these type of projects is there was something like 9,000 sheep that had been minted, and 7,000 of the sheep were staked. So that means there's only 2,000 available to be sold. And so say there was like 300 on the market or something. Once they start selling, the floor rises that much faster. So the floor, because a lot of people like went to bed and it was after like 11 p.m. Eastern, the floor just went from 0.06 like all the way up to 0.4. But like very quickly, because someone went in and bought like 20 of them. And then all of a sudden it's 0.15 and people are getting that FOMO. And then it just rode all the way up to like 0.4. Yeah, wolves were somewhere around like 1.5 on a floor or two.
It's another interesting mechanic, though, just like of the game, right? Like you said, if and when you stake, you could stake right away, but when you stake, you can't unstake for like what, 2 days? Is that what you said? Something like that?
Yeah, so sheep stay in for 2 days. So people are like, well, that 7,000 sheep, they can't be listed.
Right.
So there's less people that come in and undercut you because there's only
less available
amount that could be.
Supply demand, baby.
I think it'll be very interesting tomorrow at like whatever time when people start unstaking those to see what happens then, because you're going to get potentially all that supply back because people see the floor is like 0.2 or whatever, and it's more than what they originally paid.
Yeah. So just an interesting thing that like even in the last day, I mean, this is like I was preparing in my head notes for this show all week long, right? That's kind of what we do. We're trying to keep track of all the things that are happening throughout the week and then spit them back out to you and discuss them on this show. So if you have things that you'd like us to talk about that happened in this week, please drop them in the chat. But this one popped up yesterday and I felt like it was unique enough that we should probably fit it in. Something that happened this morning that might be close to the hearts of a handful of our viewers. The Cryptoon Goons sold out this morning. Collection of 6,969. 6969, I believe, right? Capitalizing on the meme. Sold out this morning. Danny, Anybody, Alex? Did any of you Cryptoon goons holders?
I was just about to mint, and then I had an obligation, and I couldn't get to it, and I'm upset because I'm looking at myself, and I'm like, damn, could have minted some of these. But you know what it was? It was like the cost of gas at the particular time that I was going to mint was not something I was willing to pay.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'll do it later, and then forgot about it.
Yeah. Alex, did you mint Cryptoon goons?
I actually haven't heard of them, but they look pretty cool. Who do you know who are the authors behind this?
Yeah, I'm gonna butcher the name of the artist because I don't have it. Sean, yeah. What's the last name?
I don't remember his last name, but his Twitter name's something like Sean 2 Tats or something like that. I want to say, because they were having a stream on Monday. Him and Ryan Hodge, who he's in our chat time.
We know
to time.
Hodge well.
They did a stream on Monday where Sean was live drawing them, which was kind of cool. And then I think they gave out all of the ones that he drew that day on stream. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So it's nice to see that they were able to mint out today, because they started last week.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's been not like overly long time frame, but we're used to some, like the Wolf game one sold out in hours, so this one took a little longer to sell out. But I think that something we've talked about before is like they're able to, build up a little bit of a community behind it before selling out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Casey Neistat is a holder.
Yeah, there's a handful of did I see FaZe Banks? Like Hodge was tweeting when some notable folks had come in and minted, like Frankie Nines minted, right? I saw Casey and am I making up the FaZe Banks thing? Maybe I am.
FaZe minted like 20 of them.
Yeah.
And then I saw a post today. I think it was on his Instagram for Banks. I think on his Instagram, he shared the D's tweet about D's buying.
Oh, D's, like, D's minted.
I got 20 of these the other day for like the same reason. He said something along those lines.
I don't know what this.
So some notable collectors.
Yeah.
Does that mean anything to? Does anyone look at that and say, okay, like that's a strong sign of a bullish project?
I think it means stuff to the market. To a lot of people, I think it does mean something. I mean, the transparency, we've talked about this before, Danny, right? You made that joke a few shows back about just tailing Bales's wallet. But the transparency of the blockchain allows for that, right? And so it is a thing that is very real. Beanie tweets about a project and people mint it, right? And it's just the nature of the beast. So I think people definitely do care about it. I'm hopeful that maybe it has less of an influence over time, especially as we've seen in the last week, for example, some real notable, maybe bad intentioned or at least ill-conceived concepts from influencers, right, in the NFT ecosystem that have either burned a lot of people or developed a lot of distrust and very sad, waste of funds potentially, right, for folks that are looking at more of a cash grab type thing. So I'm hopeful that it has less of an impact moving forward, but I think it definitely does. To me, in this instance, I actually unfortunately didn't mint last night. I was out grabbing dinner and I saw some notes. I saw the D's tweet and just didn't get back to it either. So I did not, but I don't know. Is that impacting your decision? Like Alex, if you'd have known that FaZe Banks and D's and all those guys tweeted, minted, would that impact your decision?
I think it depends on what you want to do with these as well. Like if you want to collect, then I don't think that it should matter that much. It's more of if I like the art, if I like the project, then I think it's a good sign that notable people are minting, but I don't think it really affects my decision. If I wanted to just flip, then I think so. Yeah. Notable names are coming in the project. It's probably going to go up a bit, so I can just go in quickly and flip after.
Yeah, that's a great point. That it is solely dependent upon your personal goals. For not only yourself, holistically, your goals as an NFT collector or investor, whatever, but also project to project, right? Do you have an attachment? We talked about the emotional attachment thing. Like if I would have bought Fleurs, I would have flipped Fleurs because I could not have developed the emotional attachment to them, right? Yeah. Lou tried to sell me a little bit more on Fleurs throughout the week last week after we had our stream where I apparently fudded Fleurs, unintentionally fudded Fleurs.
Well, it's like Alex said though, it's the type of thing where what's your goal? Because I think going into a Fleur project, you're thinking he's gonna push this and just push it and tweet about it all the time, and for that reason, it's gonna sell out.
Oh,
and
you're
it's
talking
going
about
to go up and things like that.
You're talking about different Fleur. Sorry, I was talking about oh no, I'm talking about Fluff. I confuse Fluff and Fleur because we're talking about influencers. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fudded Fluff, right? That's what I was fudding last week. But Fleur, another influencer, right? Where same type of thing that we were just talking about, pushes out a tweet about a particular project. A ton of people mint it. What are your goals? Are your goals to hold that project? Like, I think the track record speaks for like probably don't hold that project, but it's wholly dependent upon your goals. So that was a great point, Alex. I think keep moving through from this week. Let's get to some of the newer items, and then we'll move back to talk about some of the projects that got delayed and if that's impacting your decision. So we saw like 3 notable delays, I think, this week. Timeless, Artifact delayed again, Avastars delayed. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk about the bull market stuff, and we'll talk about the MoonPay / Fallon. I know we've got Alex on. We have some new viewers on. We were talking about that a little bit last night as well. But let's talk about Braindrops, which dropped on Monday. Excuse me. Monday, I believe. So right after you guys closed your morning stream, I think 3 p.m. Eastern time, Braindrops, an AI generative art platform, dropped its first collections, curated collections from 3 different artists, Claire Silver, Gene Kogan, and Pinder Van Armen. I'll be able to show it on the screen here in just a second. My main question to the group at large here is Artblocks has developed I shouldn't say monopoly, but more or less a monopoly on premium generative art, right? Does Braindrops, does Gen.art, who's another like generative art platform, right? Do any of these have a chance to rival Artblocks? Maybe that's not the right word. Maybe it is. Do they have a chance to overtake Artblocks in any way? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. So I'll start with you, Lou, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Like, what are your thoughts? One, about Braindrops. Share your thoughts about Braindrops. I know you minted some Braindrops. And then secondly, like how you think that something like this could stack up against the Titan of Artblocks. Oh, that's the notes.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's something I've thought about too, because it's like everyone's just in their head, like Artblocks is it, right? And maybe it's kind of like the punks, not like dilemma, but the same idea as punks is it's like, oh, people won't get they were first. And so that's why they're best, like out of their heads. And I feel like Artblocks recently has had more skeptics, I guess is how I'd word it. Just the way they've been doing drops recently. They had that issue on like sharing a fake account in their Discord.
Yeah. So I want to make this distinction. Braindrops is exclusively AI. So it's not, it's not, Artblocks just does pure generative, right? There is a slight discrepancy there. I don't necessarily think that it matters. Maybe it does. To me, as a collector, as a holder, I'm not considering really the difference there. Like, they are both generative projects to me, at least platforms. And I'm not really thinking too much about the AI versus not. Are you, Lou?
I mean, I still would probably compare them together.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry.
I don't know. It's the type of thing where I think it's hard. Yeah, it's like they're first to do it, and they have a long way to fall before anyone else can catch them.
Yeah. Well, also too, like maybe what Mitch is saying here is Tony's getting fired. I'm not Tony's boss, by the way, nor would I ever wish to fire Tony. Artblocks is the top shot of NFTs. This is like an interesting point to pivot off of, and I'll get to Danny and then Alex here in a second. Some of the FUD around Artblocks, aside from like the Discord thing, which of course was not good. is supply. So many art blocks projects right now. They are tiered. So you have curated, which is obviously you need to run through the curation board. That's your top of the line premium stuff, right? Then you have playground, which is you had to have been curated to get to playground. And then you have factory, which is really anything. And that's where the majority of projects are being dropped is factory. They've still got that art blocks attachment, right? They've still got the little stamp art blocks. Are they dropping too much stuff? Danny, your take on braindrops, comparing braindrops to art blocks, competition, AI versus generative, all that.
Yeah, I think in the short term, we always overestimate the importance of being first. And in the long term, we understand that first matters, but it matters in the micro. And there will be things that will be dropped in the next year, decade, that we couldn't have possibly predicted that make art blocks, brain drops, or something else win. And so I think a lot of innovation still needs to happen, and a lot of time needs to happen before we make a decision on who's the winner of this whole thing.
I saw this. This is relevant to, I think, what you just mentioned. I saw this tweet earlier. I believe this is Alex Gosman, NFTs creator, I believe. I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me. But I saw this tweet earlier, starting to feel like historical significance is not as important as, right, that less than cultural significance when talking about why are punks and glyphs down, but apes just keep going up, and why do mooncats never go above 0.5 or whatever. Sad for mooncats people. I hold some mooncats. Alex, why don't you take that one? Like, do you have a take there, and then lead us into your thoughts on brain drops, art blocks, competition? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting debate. I feel that historical will always have some significance, but it's true that I think cultural is probably more important and more in the now. So like if it's historical, but they don't really do anything, for example, like people are complaining that Larva Labs are just not like in like the Web3 community, really. Like they're not doing any events. Like they're just, punks are punks and that's it. And Meebits, like we don't really hear about them either. Whereas like, apes, like they're doing so much for the community, and like that's why it's going up in price. And I think that if it continues this way, then like for sure that apes will have a chance to surpass punks. And I think it's the same thing with art blocks and brain drops. Art blocks, they are the first mover advantage. And again, like I think art blocks are still like pretty reputable, and they still like they consistently pump out new projects. So I don't think nobody's gonna surpass them now. But yeah, if there is a new project that does something like Danny was saying, like a lot more innovative, or a lot more like they contribute a bit more, or maybe they have like better artists, I don't know. Then in that case, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually they do get surpassed. But for now, I think art blocks are king, and it's gonna stay that way. Like brain drops, I think it's good to have like, rivals or like people trying to take over, or just like make it such that art blocks are not a monopoly and like the generative space.
Yep.
But I think so far they've proven that they are like on top.
Yeah, I mean, we want competition, right? Of course, that's what moves everything forward, right? That's why we want Coinbase NFT, right? That's why we want Show You. That's why maybe we want Rarible to do some new stuff. Lou was exclusively on Rarible until how long into this year, Lou?
I don't know, March, April.
He doesn't want to talk about it. Let me share before we move off our brain drops, though. Like we didn't actually walk through some of these pieces too much. So these are the PodGANs. GAN. Oh man, I don't know what it stands for. Something network, neural network type thingy, right? Something like that. Anyway, this is Pinder Van Armen's. I love these. I'm a holder. I think these are awesome. I think these are really, really cool. And I saw some people like comparing that, of course, if brain drops does pull even remotely second place to art blocks or something like that, right? This would be your equivalent squiggle or something, so we'll see. But this is the Pinder, and then there were also, as I mentioned, there's Claire Silver's drop of 500 only. So you can see these. These are a little more like what you would expect from I don't know what type of painting this would be. Renaissance-y type thing, right?
Yeah.
And then you had the Kogans as well. A little more colorful. This is
Shout out warm color palette.
This is up my alley. Lou, you pulled a Vitalik Kogan, right?
Yeah, I had that one. I think all of these ones move?
I'm not sure if they move. They may move and maybe just don't move on site. That might be a thing we can look into here. Ooh, this
I know
is nice.
the Vitaliks moved.
Oh man,
the Claire ones didn't.
That's the type of color that I'm here for, guys.
Going off of that, our Art Blocks Top Shot comment, that had me thinking like they're on Series 5 now for Art Blocks. Like, should Series 5 matter in any way? People just want Series 1, kind of like Top Shot.
I actually didn't even know the series thing. Series 5. So Series 1 is what? Squiggles through what? Do you know?
Squiggles, Ringers, Fidenzas.
Okay, so Ringers is still
like things like that.
Even Fidenza's Series 1 still?
I don't know.
Because Fidenza's was like kind of. I know it's all silly because it started in like November of last year. So our box has been around for like a year. So I say late. Like Fidenza's were March, right? So they had a handful of projects before then because I was out of my art box phase at that point in time, unfortunately. Sad. Nevertheless, I don't know. Should it matter or not? I don't think it should because they're all individual collections, but I don't really know.
Yeah. Fidenzas were new, or Series 3. So one was the Squiggles, Crypto Blots, if you remember those ones.
Yep.
Genesis, it was called Construction Token, Dynamic Slices, and Elevated Deconstructions.
Okay.
So Series 2 were those Singularities, which I think are pretty high up. And that had Ringers. So Series 2 had a bunch of ones that I was thinking was Series 1, but Ringers were also Series 2. So I don't know. I'm just thinking of it from that Top Shot angle where people liked the first one.
Yeah. Yeah, I would expect that maybe Series 1 carries some sort of premium, but I really do think the nature of Art Blocks is like it's more about it's maybe not more, but I don't know, a little bit more about the artist itself or him or herself, right? So anyway, Braindrops is one of the things I wanted to chat about this week. Dropped on Monday. Of course, you can check out all the assets at luckytrader.com. Braindrops. It's in the project rankings page and everything as well. Let's move to some of the delays. We were supposed to have had Timeless, which is the Treeverse Avatar drop, CloneX, the Artifact drop, and Avastar Replicants this week. And all three have moved into either next week or the week beyond. Is that right? Alex, I know you're a proponent of CloneX. Does this like delay at this point in time to continued delays? Like, does that impact you at all? Does it change your thoughts about the project in any way? Or are you like, let's just get it right?
Yeah, I think it's more important to get it right than pushing it and then like making sure that you deliver on a certain date. I think it's still important to say like we want to deliver at a certain date and then try to do it as much as possible. But I think quality is a lot more important, especially for like these huge projects where you have like so much money involved and so many people involved as well. Like you want to make sure that people are happy with what they get. And I think that's why quality trumps over like quickness of delivery, I guess. So for me, like, I mean, it sucks, but I prefer that the team is like, well, you know, we want to make sure that we focus on quality and that's why we're pushing it. Then like, oh, like we just want the money right away and we're going to do it, you know, tomorrow, even though the quality is not as good.
Yeah. I have a kind of a piggybacking question from that. So let's say CloneX or any of these that have delayed drop and there's still an issue with the drop. Does that like, is that an immediate red flag in any way that like, okay, you've already delayed 5 times, took your time and still got it wrong? Is that like, ugh.
Yeah, I
What do you
mean,
think?
regardless of any project that drops, like I think any project that drops something and there is like some FUD going on, like I don't know, like not quality or like like the Mechaverse where the backgrounds are all the same. I think that's a bad look regardless, and it's even worse if you're like we want to make sure that we have quality and then you don't actually deliver. I think that's the thing. Like the more that you delay your launch, the more expectations that you create from the people that are going to mint as well. So yeah, like you have to make sure that it's really good and it's really quality, because if not, then people are going to complain about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we
not
did
gonna
up.
matter if it's cool.
Right. We did update the drop preview here with an editor's note. We dropped this, last week, right, Alex? That
Yeah.
it was slated for the 18th. So we added in a little editor's note. It's been updated on the schedule page, luckytrader.com as well. If you just search for CloneX, you can find it down here, 27th. There's a lot of stuff on the calendar coming up. Or 29th. Public mint's the 29th. That's why we have it listed on the 29th. Just a small scheduling note there. If you are looking for things on the schedule page, we go by the public mint because not everybody can get on the whitelist. In the case of CloneX, you needed to hold particular items from previous CloneX drops or artifact drops to be able to access that pre-list. So that's why we have it listed at public mint dates with descriptions where possible for the whitelist or the pre-sale. So, Lou, thoughts about these delayed projects? Were you Avastar holder?
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a good kind of segue into Avastars, because that's been somewhat of a complaint I've had for Avastars, because I can't even tell you when I was super excited about Avastars, trying to figure out how to get replicant. That was in April. I don't even know when Avastars were big, but a lot of people who are in NFTs right now don't even know these exist.
Yeah.
They don't even realize this was my favorite minting of any project. I don't know if you ever minted these.
Yeah.
So for people watching or just who don't know, basically the idea was it kind of looked like this screen in a way, and it was on their website, and it was an endless scroll, and they basically showed you here are what they look like, and you can click in, you can see the traits. They gave a rarity score to it. There's common up to legendary and stuff like that, and it was out of 100. And then what happened was you could click on it and mint it, but then they also created a little dynamic where you could instead, if you find something cool but you don't want to mint it yourself, you could put it out there for other people, because every time you refresh the page, it's a whole new set of info and everyone sees a different page. So you could save it to the cloud, let's say, and in a general sense, and then someone else can go on to, there was this secondary page where they could see other ones that are saved and they cost a little more. So say it was 0.07 to mint, that one would cost 0.1, and that extra 0.03 went a finder's fee to the person who found it. So there were people who were paying others to go search for stuff that was cool for them and saving them, and then they would mint them later on. So it was one of the coolest minting projects or processes that I had, where you could actually just get addicted to scrolling through the page and trying to find something cool. And then they kind of, I don't want to say disappeared, but you didn't hear anything about it for 2 months, what they were going to do with their project after they completely sold out.
Yeah, it was a really awesome experience. I minted in early January. It was actually one of the first projects I stumbled into. It was one of the only projects around at that point in time, right? I mean, there weren't that many. And of course, Jimmy McNeilis, whose apes are being used for kingship, right, is one of the project leaders / founders of Avastars. It was an awesome experience. It was basically, endless scroll, find one you like. If you didn't like it, or if you did like it, but you couldn't buy it, somebody else could buy it, and then you'd get some rewards from it, right? It was really cool, super unique, and that was early. That was early, right, in the year. We haven't really seen anything quite like that since. That's the type of stuff when we talk about uniqueness, and that one wasn't even complex, right? When we talk about uniqueness, like to see some cool things like that come from new projects as well. If you're creating that experience, that tells us as users and consumers that you put in a lot of effort up front And that should just be like a signal maybe that you're committed. I think of, I use this example all the time, but the creature world thing, right? Like you were dropped in a metaverse to do a task before you could mint. It wasn't just throw up a web page with a mint link. There's a difference there between the level of resource needed to create one or the other. And I'm not suggesting that all of those who put that upfront effort in are successful projects, right? Like Lou was just saying, you hadn't heard from Avastars. It's not like they've really moved that much. You can still get in around the same price that you would have minted for, or cheaper potentially. So it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't necessarily correlate to success. However, it is a good indicator that like potentially this team, one, has the resources to provide and execute, and then also like they're thinking about that and they're trying to push the needle.
They also have the historical significance on their side where they're the first. They're generative on chain, and they have, when did they start? Like September last year or something like that. Like they took a long time to completely mint out, but this next iteration for them is they had, I think it was 5 series of 5,000 minted, and so they have like 25K. But what you can do with this replication thing is you can combine up to 5 of your Avastars together, and you can take, so that, let's say there's 12 traits that each one has. You can basically, you build a new Avastar from those other 5 traits, and you burn the token, the art token that each one has in order to do it. And then you can never use that trait again on future ones. And so those are like the Gen 2 version of them.
Yeah. I don't think Avastars are going away. This is one of those teams, right, that I think they're tied to their reputations, or like strongly convicted on producing a good quality product. And that's part of what Alex was mentioning, right? With like, he's okay with delays so long as they get it right. Right. And that's what these teams are trying to do. And so I actually think in all 3 instances, both Artifact, Treeverse from Loopify, and Treeverse/Timeless from Loopify, and what am I saying? Avastars, right? All 3 are good, solid teams that are trying and executing appropriately. Can you guys hear that music? Okay. Tony said, "Do you guys enjoy the Show You metaverse?" So I pulled up Show You off to the side, and I'm getting like this. I don't know how to describe this music. But have you guys messed around? So Show You launched this week, sort of. I have not seen as much. Oh my gosh. Am I doing this on stream right now? Can people see this?
Mm-hmm.
Can somebody comment? I can't.
It looks
Lou?
interesting.
Danny? Okay, Danny, I hear somebody. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
This is cool. Can you swim in the pools?
Probably. I'm not a gamer.
Logie bring his bathing suit?
No, I'm going to X out because I'm scared. Nevertheless, this is another thing that we will have. So you see some of the current bids on these. They're doing curated drops to start on Show You. Show You being the NFT marketplace within the Sushi Swap sort of decentralized, ecosystem. I'm working on a piece for this. I wanted to see how it started, how it's going to work for folks. But essentially, Sushi Swap, Show You here, is going to be entering into competition for NFT marketplace, and doing so by providing the fees. Like OpenSea takes a 2.5% fee, right? That fee goes to OpenSea. In the case of Show You, the 2.5% fees for purchases or sales or whatever goes to X sushi holders and or sushi stakers, right? So this is your competition. And I was toying with I'm going to say this on the stream, but of course not going to write it. I was toying with article names for this Show You guides thing that I'm working on. And it was going to be like something like, I'll show you how to make money, selling NFTs, which of course is not the case. You're not like guaranteed to make money, though it's sort of unique because it doesn't matter, right? If you're holding X sushi, you would recoup pro rata your portion of the fees. So you could sort of, but not really. Nevertheless, Did you guys see that? Have you been in? Alex, you played around with Show You or anything yet?
I heard about it. I never played around with it, but I didn't know that they actually split the fees for XShow holders. So I think that's like super cool, just because like a lot of people complain about the fees that OpenSea takes, and just the fact that they're still taking a portion, but they're still rewarding the people that hold XSushi. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So there'll be fees. I think the fee percentage might be a little bit different overall, and we'll see how this is implemented in total. But some of the fees will still go to kind of like the DAO, right, for maintenance of the site, for upkeep of the site, servers, like things still need to be paid, right, for that stuff. But then the majority of those fees, I don't know if majority is right. I need to look this up. So, but a portion of the fees will be dispersed to XSushi holders. And of course, you can acquire XSushi by staking sushi. You could swap just right into XSushi if you wish to. We've got a beginner's guide to DeFi coming. It'll show you and talk a little bit about I didn't even mean that. But Alex is working on one right now. Hopefully going to be published later today. That'll talk about automated market makers and kind of talk a little bit about them, and then eventually get you prepared to be able to use them if you haven't used Uniswap or you haven't used SushiSwap. More on that coming. So stay tuned. Danny, thoughts on marketplace competition? Show You anything?
I love it. I think it's good for the ecosystem, good for everyone, and it's like let the best. I tried to jump off the edge. Yeah, I think it's great for the ecosystem and great for NFTs in general. I haven't played around with it, and it's interesting how they're doing the curated to start.
Yeah,
that's I'd prefer obviously them to just throw out the marketplace and see what it's like, and people could test it out. But obviously, it's way harder to code on the back end and create a great experience. So it's good.
Yeah. All right, we've got about 13 minutes left because we do need to shut this thing down at noon Eastern today. So sorry for folks. We'll have this in podcast form right after the show. Hopefully, I don't know how long it takes you, Danny, but a little bit after the show to get that up. So anybody on their commute home tonight, if they'd like to learn a little bit more about the recap, we'll share that for everyone. Of course, those things are being hosted. All of our stuff now is in podcast form. You can download the Lucky Trader podcast, all the podcast places that you listen to podcasts. Our grateful host, Danny Miranda. Great episodes. The D's episode, Danny, was so great.
You enjoyed it?
Great. Yeah, it was so great, dude. You're obviously fantastic every time, but D's is just like the authenticity I thought was, he felt like an everyman. You know what I mean? Like he's obviously a super successful NFT collector, investor, entrepreneur, whatever, right? You want to call it. And I didn't get that at all, which was just super refreshing in my mind. So thank you for hosting that conversation. And if you have not listened to it, please go listen to the conversation with D's and all the other conversations on the Lucky Trader podcast. About 10 minutes here though. Let's hop into the bull market or bullish market or whatever we want to call it. Alex, you weren't on the stream last night. We asked both Danny and Lou if they felt like this last week is signal. Are we in a bull market? Are we in an NFT bull market? What do you think?
I don't know, honestly. Like I'm a bit scarred from the bear market, like the mini bear market that we had. It's not even a real bear market, but so like I don't know if I want to call it a bull market, but it's a good signal that we can potentially be in one. I think a lot of things are fluctuating right now, so like I don't know because I don't think all the projects are going up, but a lot of the big projects are going up, like Cool Cats. And I think like the signal that you get whenever we're approaching a bull market is whenever you get like emails of people bidding on your NFTs on OpenSea. Like those are nice to see when you wake up and you have like 20 of them. You're like, okay, well maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
So like the answer is I'm hoping that we are getting into a bull market, but you never know with the space.
Yeah, of course. And I think what we've seen thus far, and we don't have a ton of data just yet, but we've seen thus far is like the cycles are just very, very fast, right? So like we could already be on the tail end of a 1 week long bull market. That leads us into, for the folks that are here that weren't yesterday, we were talking about the bull market potentially being spurred by BAYC and the Jimmy Fallon news. But it's in the last few days come to light that MoonPay, a crypto payment infrastructure company, sort of funded those purchases for both Jimmy Fallon and Post Malone. For those that are new that were not here last night, should we FUD this? Is it FUD? Does it matter? Does it not? Does anybody care? Alex, do you have a take there? Because coming right back to you, but we chatted a little bit about it last night. I'd be curious to get your thought.
Well, I think it's really good marketing for MoonPay. First of all, like that's really smart for them to bring them on. I don't think it's FUD because they still have like, yes, I mean they're getting paid, or like I don't know if they are paying them or like in full, like they just paid the whole ape. I don't know if we have confirmation on that, but still they still have to associate with the branding of like I'm getting an NFT, and especially right now, there's like I feel that half the people hate NFTs and the other half are like, or probably even a smaller percentage, like 10% of the people like NFTs and 90% like hate it. So like you do risk a lot in terms of branding if you do associate with NFTs, and so I do think overall it's a good thing for the space, and especially someone with like Jimmy Fallon, who I'm pretty sure does a lot of due diligence before doing any move like this, because his audience is so like it's huge, right? So yeah, I think overall it's a very good move for the space. Like I don't think I think it's good for bringing other people in as well. I think it's good overall.
Do you guys also agree with that take of 10% love and 90% hate NFTs? I'm curious from your guys' perspective what it feels like.
Dude, I'm in such an echo chamber. You know what I mean? My feed right now, like the only social media I have is Twitter. And like that is of course my lifeline of information and communication to the outside world, or worlds for those metaverse people. So I think I'm like poorly equipped to answer it. I think that not 90% hate NFTs, but I think it's just 90% don't know about NFTs. I was talking to a high school friend this morning that he listened to a podcast recently and like started to maybe understand some of the NFT applications. But what he doesn't get is like why people would pay so much money for a stupid avatar, right? You were talking about this earlier, Danny. Like you need to be able to get something. It doesn't need to be Bored Apes. It doesn't need to be Wolf Game. You need to get one thing first. And then you're like open. And then you're like, oh, wait, shit. Okay. Yeah. Like it's just like anything else, right? Like you may not collect Pokemon cards, but you collect something else, right? And then it's just collecting, right? In that instance. So I think that 90% just maybe don't know and aren't properly educated on like what it really is, because they associate NFTs with $100,000 pictures of pixelated stuff. And that is not an NFT. I mean, it is, but that's not, it's not what they are. They can't all be generalized to that. So we can continue to, and this is what we're trying to do here at Lucky Trader, right? Is like educate people. If we can show people that NFTs are more than pictures of apes or pictures of cats, and they can be used in a whole host of different ways, and it is like a new way to financialize IP and like all these things, right? I think less people will hate it. I'm not certain 90% hate it. I just think 90% don't know about it. There is a strong contingent of folks, maybe 5% of that 90% that definitely hate it. And it's probably because they're ill-informed. We have 5 minutes left. Lou, you have a take on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that 90% hate it, but I think it could be something like 10% are super into it. Another 10% are trying to learn. Another 20% are outside looking in and say, just that's not for me. Then there's the right click savers who are specifically just like trying to troll people. I think there's like a different types of people in that outside, but I mean, there's definitely people that hate it and want it away from their timeline, and they hate when other people are successful and they're not, especially if they don't get something.
Yeah. I think they hate the avatar thing. I just like, I really.
Yeah, that's what I always go back. I'm like, I kind of wish that that's not the thing that we're big. Like if art blocks was like the big thing that was on everyone's timeline, this, that, and it's like, oh, like, okay, it's art. Like,
yeah,
art's always been weird, that sort of thing. But it's that there's all these little baby doodles and like all of those types of random
Lil
things,
baby
the
Doodles.
pixel cats and like things like that. That's the part that people are against, I think, and think that it's a joke.
Yeah, this is a great way to end it, Danny. Thanks for asking that question. I want to know your thoughts, though.
I would say that I'm not like you, not properly attuned to the real world, quote unquote. I spend enough of my time in an echo chamber, and I think that yeah, I did a poll on my Instagram like maybe a few months ago now, it was how many people who follow me know what an NFT is. This is all my college friends, high school, and it was 80% knew what it was, 20% didn't.
Yeah.
And then it was how many of you own an NFT? And then it was 20% had owned an NFT and 80% didn't. And so that was kind of interesting from my perspective of like 20, 80, 80, 20.
Yeah.
And so
we got to rerun the poll on Twitter, my friend. 20,000 Twitter
probably
followers.
95.5 now.
Yeah, I was curious from a different perspective. The people on Twitter are native to the web and maybe are interested in NFTs, but yeah, I will. I'll do it right after this.
You should definitely run it, and let's chat about it next week or something. Because
I think more people I know about it, like more normies, if we want to say it that way. More people that I know in real life. I've had real life discussions about NFTs the last like month or two that I was not having any of those discussions in like April, May.
You know, it's fun.
Also,
next week, Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Having all these conversations.
I was just about to say Thanksgiving is the NFL is going to put some Thanksgiving NFT together for the Thanksgiving game.
That's going to be huge.
That's going to be huge.
Yeah.
We'll have to chat about that on Monday.
We will chat about that. As we wrap up here, thank you everyone for joining, participating, asking questions. Please do come back and ask more. Listen to the D's podcast. Listen to all the Lucky Trader podcasts. LuckyTrader.com. For those of you who don't know, all the tools and resources we showcase during the show are available there. We'll be dropping this show in podcast form shortly thereafter. You'll find it. Re-listen to all these great insights, hopefully great insights from the team here. We'll be back Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, same exact time, to look ahead to the week. And hopefully we get Timeless, and hopefully we get CloneX, which will be next Friday, next Saturday, right? Hopefully we get all those things and we can actually talk about them in recap. Appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much for all your kind notes and FUD and Alpha, all of it. We appreciate it. I'm going to sign us off like a minute early. I'm going to try to do the video thing right. I'm going to definitely mess it up because I'm unprepared today. I was unprepared to do this appropriately. So thank you, everyone.